Welcome back, everybody. Today is Friday, May 20th, 2022. And I wanted to let you know I received an urgent email from a Texas lawyer, attorney Ed Strinkowski. And before I read the email I received, before I read it to you, please give this video a like and tell the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy these updates and that you want to share it with more people so that they can too get better prepared for the panic and chaos that is rapidly approaching us. Now, also, please subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. I really do appreciate it. Attorney Ed Strinkowski wanted to share some powerful insight that he thought would be very helpful to us all. Pretty much all fire trucks and many emergency response vehicles such as ambulances run on diesel now. Big problem, right? The majority of our goods in this nation travel by rail, even taking to large distribution centers for offloading to diesel trucks. All train engines are powered by diesel. Bigger problem than no diesel for trucks, much bigger problem. He suspects that many other vehicles such as electric utility repair trucks, as well as garbage trucks run on diesel, not to mention Caterpillar equipment such as generators, bulldozers, front loaders, cranes, and even marine crafts, which made me think to the Coast Guard as having possible diesel fuel shortage complications. Ed Strinkowski told me he has been practicing law for 43 years and has been handling emergency response along the way, including catastrophic explosions and fires. And we are no stranger to those here recently. Sounds like we need to try to get Ed on a live stream interview someday soon. Ed, reach out if that's something that interests you. I appreciate you sending the email and providing the information and update. I hope everybody is aware and paying attention. Even if you live in a world where you never experience diesel, you never look at the price of diesel, you never fill up with diesel, you don't have any equipment or any need for diesel, the price of diesel and the availability or lack thereof of diesel fuel does affect you in everything you do indirectly. So quick question for you guys. Would you like to see more live streams or interviews? This email from Ed made me think about that and trying to bring him on to bring on different perspectives and additional information from professionals in different industries in different regions of the country or maybe even the world. So I want to know if you guys want to see more interviews, whether they're recorded or live stream. If so, please comment below and tell me what subjects or the types of industry experts and professionals you want to hear from. I would appreciate that. Now, not to cause any alarm, but the U.S. has seen its first case of monkeypox this year. And a Massachusetts resident has tested positive for monkeypox earlier this week, making it the first case of the rare virus detected in the U.S. this year. I've never even heard of monkeypox until now. This comes after several other cases of monkeypox were identified in the UK here recently, and monkeypox is a rare disease first discovered in the 70s and an illness that has since spread through Africa. Common symptoms include fever, headache, fatigue, and muscle aches. Although the CDC claims the disease isn't a threat to America's health, I wanted to make sure you guys were aware because, like I said, I had never heard of it until now. But I also want everyone to be aware of what's out there and potentially what could stem from it, whether it be lockdowns, shutdowns, further shortages, or anything like that, is really what I'm trying to get at. Now, families are rationing baby formula for children as the shortage continues to get worse. Major U.S. retailers, including Target, CVS, Walgreens, and Kroger, have restricted the amount of formula a consumer can purchase, and these shortages are hurting low-income families the most, as the working poor middle class typically does not have the resources to travel long distances to find alternatives or alternative sources of baby formula. And I think, oh man, I'll put it in the description I'll put it in the group. I'll put it in the Facebook group because my wife mentioned yesterday that there was a company that was actually requesting to buy baby formula. And maybe this could be some form of alternate source for the baby formula outside of the traditional retailer, just to give people greater access to it and avoid the limitations of the 1 or 2 or 6 or however many it may be per purchase per consumer. But to put the baby formula game into perspective, Abbott and Reckitt Benckiser both make Enfamil, and combined, the two companies dominate 80% of the US baby formula market. Between these two and Nestle's Gerber brand, 90% of baby formula is locked up by these companies, and they are the only makers approved by the US government to provide baby formula through the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, but better known as WIC, W-I-C. Now, WIC is responsible for 92% of supermarket sales of milk-based powder formula in the 12 to 16 ounce containers and 51% of all sales in other sizes. Now, we're moving on to the government portion here. Grants provided by the government have inadvertently created somewhat of a monopoly for these baby formula producers, making it more difficult and very unattractive for other companies to offer solutions for increased supply and availability. Biden has introduced the Defense Production Act as a way to help improve the national baby formula shortage disaster. What does that really mean? The federal government will prioritize key ingredients for formula production and try to compel suppliers to provide the needed resources to formula manufacturers ahead of other customers ordering those same goods. Sounds good, but I don't see this ending well for the consumer, and most importantly for the children who need these to survive and continue to live life. And ultimately, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul if you look at it from compelling suppliers to provide the needed resources to formula manufacturers ahead of other customers ordering those goods. We don't need to really just shift the raw materials and resources. We need to find ways to increase availability, improve supply, because okay, you solve a baby formula shortage problem possibly, but then you create multiple other problems somewhere else and other shortages. So I don't really see this as a great viable solution. In addition to, I also don't really like how much involvement the federal government has in business, because to compel these suppliers, I think it's going to come at a cost. And the cost is either going to hit us, the consumer, and we're going to see higher prices. Granted, the availability improves and shortages reduce, but we're going to see higher prices, or we see massive and drastic pushback by the producers, and ultimately saying, hey, if we can't make what we want to make profit-wise, then we just won't do it. So I'm not really sure how well that's going to work out. I do appreciate the idea of trying to produce some form of plan to try to fix this, but I don't think that this is the right direction to go. Plan and brace for a recession, please. We hear it all the time in the news. I'm not the only one talking about it, but we do need to prepare for it. The beauty of it is if you prepare for it and it doesn't happen, you're going to be much better off down the road. Hindsight, or on the flip side, if it does happen, then you're not going to be completely screwed. Now, according to Bankrate, here are some ways to recession-proof yourself. Number one, pay down high interest credit card balances. Because like I said in my previous video, I think it was yesterday, you don't want to, well, with Jerome Powell raising interest rates, the Fed has raised interest rates, and they're going to continue to raise interest rates. And these affect more than just the percentage rate on a mortgage approval, basically what you're going to be paying for your house every month. But they also affect other loans and credit cards. So the higher rates increase the amount of interest charged on balances that you carry, specifically on the revolving debt. If you have a mortgage that you've had for a year or two and it's locked in at, 2.74, 2.9, you're good. You're good. As long as it's not an adjustable rate mortgage, you're good for 15, 20, 30, maybe even 40, depending on what kind of modification you may have received to get this, but that's locked in. But credit cards and revolving debt, those can fluctuate, and the higher the rate, the higher the interest on top of the balance that you hold that you have to pay for and repay, the more it costs you to pay it back. So, paying down high interest credit card balances is key. This is a little bit against what Dave Ramsey recommends by paying down the largest balance. But in this particular situation, reducing the amount of money that you're working to earn to then spend to pay your credit cards and other revolving debts is going to be much more valuable to you because you're reducing the amount of interest you're paying. Number 2, assess your financial situation before paying off other debts. Like I said, if you have a mortgage and it's locked in, you may not want to rush to pay it down or pay it off because it's locked in at a set rate, a really good rate at that, which is going to be consistent and it won't shock you every month with the fluctuations of the rates by the Fed. Before I go any further, I just want to let you guys know this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing with you what Bankrate has put on their website to help you prepare for a recession and giving you a little bit of what I think about it. Number 3, build a substantial emergency fund. And that's going to be different for everybody, but a substantial emergency fund really probably is more like 6 months to cover all expenses for 6 months. That'll be substantial, but realistic, at least get 1 month. Work on getting 2. Now is going to be the time to do it before things get really out of hand. Number 4, identify ways to cut back. This is also going to help you with preparing your emergency fund, because if you're wasting less money, that means you have more money available to save. So identify ways to cut back. Don't go to Starbucks as often. Maybe you don't need Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and whatever, YouTube TV or whatever. Maybe you don't need to get your hair and nails done, as often or at all. There are ways to cut back. Negotiate with your cable provider, your internet provider, your cell phone provider to get a lower monthly rate. Number 5, don't make knee-jerk reactions with your investments. And this is kind of revolving around pulling out, selling. When you see the fluctuations in the market, that's what they're talking about there. Number 6, think about your career and earnings opportunities, and this can include increased and improved education, further certification, pursuing another career, another employer to be brought on at a higher salary or hourly rate, or just staying with the employer you're with and finding ways to be more valuable and earn more money. And number 7, which is most important, is don't panic. Because if you panic, then you're pretty much SOL. So try not to panic. I understand that these are trying times, but take a deep breath, relax, slow down, don't panic. And yes, I do still have notes today because I just want to make sure I stay on track and bring you guys all this important information. But I do want to share with you something that hit me this morning when I woke up, and it is prepare yourself for the unprepared. And what I mean by that is, I think everybody watching is doing their very best to prepare, stock up, stockpile, everything. But you need to prepare yourself for those who don't, and those who won't, and those who oppose you, and those who think you're crazy. You need to prepare yourself for them, because when SHTF, they're going to be the first ones knocking on your door, hopefully politely and respectfully asking for help. They could also be trying to kick down your door because they know how well prepared you have been or are, and you need to be prepared for the unprepared. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want me to go into further detail, comment below, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit more in a future video. Lastly, stock up on more than just food. Think about the things that you use every day every week, every month, maybe even every season. I noticed that there are some commenters, and I really do appreciate it, mentioning the amount of kerosene that they use, the availability of it, the frequency that they can get refilled, the tanks that they store it in, the size of the tanks. This is up north, and the cost of the kerosene, and also firewood in preparation for the colder seasons. So we need to be mindful and cognizant of being prepared for more than just the food, but we need to be prepared for everything. Even, for instance, we've had instances of not being able to get vehicles serviced in a timely manner. And I mean, you set an appointment and they're saying 2 to 3 months out before you can get in. Not necessarily just because of the labor component, but because they don't have the parts. I believe there was at one point that Ram or Chrysler, they didn't have any brake pads. And it was like a 6-month wait for brake pads. You may want to take into consideration tires for your vehicle, brake pads, oil, fluids, antifreeze, coolant, oil filters, spark plugs, things like that, windshield wipers, things like that that you can get now that pretty much don't have a shelf life, or they have a very long shelf life, that you can store. And at the very least, you can find a mechanic, and or you can do it yourself when it needs to happen, versus you getting down the road and we're in a massive, oil crisis, and you can't even buy, 10W30 to do an oil change. Think about your clothing. Think about not just the season you're in, but the season that you're going to. If you have children coming into your life, or young children who are growing rapidly, you're going to want to be prepared for that. We have to be mindful and cognizant and be thinking multiple steps ahead, because the situations that we're in are going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And we want to be prepared. We don't want to panic. We don't want to be a part of the crisis and the chaos when everyone's doing bank runs, trying to get all their cash out of the bank, and doing fuel runs and trying to get all the gas out of the gas station. We want to be prepared now before it gets crazy, because when it gets crazy, the safest place for you to be is going to be at home with your family. Thank you guys for watching. Please give the video a like. If you would, comment below with answers to the questions that I've asked. And thank you so much. I will see you guys on the next. Take care. Be safe.